Hello.
Hello. Hello, everybody.
Man, that was my first time seeing the new intro. That was intense.
Yeah, happy Black History Month, everyone. That intro was made by our very own Andy Garfield. I think music as well. So thanks, Andy, for that.
I know.
It's
so good.
It's very cool. It's just hard for me to follow that.
Right, we need our own.
Just put the show now. We're done. That's it.
Yeah, we got great guests on today.
Yeah, of course we do. But before we get to our very awesome guests, we do have to introduce a new person joining our team on the back end, Maddie.
Yay.
Hi.
Welcome, Maddie.
Hello.
So Maddie's going to be one of our new producers moving forward, and we'd like to just give her a second to introduce herself.
Yeah, I'm an associate producer based in Los Angeles, California. I've worked at Universal Studios Hollywood and Disneyland. I've spent the last few months working on some virtual events in this new kind of world we find ourselves in, but I'm looking forward to being part of the TETV team and to hopefully a brighter 2021 for experiential events and entertainment.
Yes, awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Maddie.
Thank you so much.
We always like to make sure we give some recognition to the people pulling the strings behind the scenes. So thank you, Kyle. But yeah, today is a fun event. It's the first time we are having a repeat guest on the show.
Yeah.
So we've had Kyle on as a guest, and he's been on the show from now and then. But this is the first true time we've had a repeat guest. Mm-hmm. So we'd like to welcome RJ Temple and Katrina. He brought along a friend from the Upbeat Imagination Workshop, and today we're going to talk about him and the company.
Yeah.
Hey everyone, how is everyone doing?
Awesome.
Doing good.
Yeah, this week also, for those of you watching at home, is a little bit different due to scheduling issues. We are pre-recording this one, so unfortunately, we won't be doing the whole live interaction and everything. But it's a good sign when we're busy.
Don't leave your comments. Don't leave your comments
because
we read them.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So RJ, like Dave was saying earlier, you have been on our show before, so you are a friend of the network. But still, for folks who maybe haven't seen you yet, if you wanted to introduce yourself a little bit, and then Katrina, you can introduce yourself as well.
Yes, of course. Well, thanks for having me back. It's so great to be back on the show. Again, my name is RJ Temple. I am the creative director and founder of the Upbeat Imagination Workshop. We're here in Orlando, Florida. We're one of the few African-American themed entertainment companies in the nation, focused on film, television, attractions, you name it, immersive experiences. And what's neat is that we really celebrate the importance of representation, diversity, and inclusion as a company. We actually live to empower, all different walks of life to be able to have an opportunity to work in themed entertainment. Just to give a quick rundown, I've had, numerous experience, over 20 years of experience in themed entertainment. Worked with Disney as a show writer, producer, also worked with Universal and Nickelodeon as well. Worked on numerous types of projects, in attractions and live shows. And it's truly a pleasure to be able to share with the themed entertainment television family some of the cool things that we do as a company. So it's great to be here.
Great to have you.
Yeah, we're happy to have you. Katrina, did you want to introduce yourself a little?
Yes, so my name is Katrina Menarik, and I am so happy to be working with RJ and the Upbeat Imagination Workshop. RJ and I actually worked together at Disney for several years. Never in the same place, but always together, if that makes sense. So I started with the Walt Disney Company about 10 years ago as a casting director for the American Idol experience, because prior to my journey in themed entertainment, I was actually a professional singer. I went to school for music and I studied opera and jazz and really wanted to be a performer my whole life. But Disney just opened the door for themed entertainment. Started off working at that American Idol attraction, then got into production. And then, from there, I just fell in love with theme park production and just worked on all 4 parks. Got into music production, worked at broadcast production. So really got a chance to learn live events, to learn music production and video production. So I've pretty much like RJ likes to say, a gumbo of different skills and talents. But yeah, that's how RJ and I met, and joined the team last year as a show producer, helping him and the team just with the logistics side of the business, the budgets and the scheduling, and project milestones, and just kind of keeping the wheels moving and turning. But yeah, that's who I am.
Yay, thanks for joining us today. So yeah, we have RJ and Katrina here from the Upbeat Imagination Workshop. We are really excited to highlight this company. And RJ, like you said, it is a Black-owned company within the themed entertainment industry itself, which is an amazing feat in itself. So did you kind of want to tell us a little bit more about TUIW a little bit more?
Absolutely. In fact, I have a deck that I would love to share with you all to show you some of the cool things that we do as a company. And what's cool about it, as the team, they'll pull it up. It's okay to do that now. We really believe in being storytellers. We are all storytellers as a company. I'm moving to the next slide. This is our very first character, Jerry. People think that he's my son, which is kind of funny, but probably because of the hair. But what's cool is that Jerry, I'm originally from Savannah, Georgia. I'm born and raised there. The company started in 2006, and we started with live shows around puppetry. Jerry was the very first puppet character. And one thing that's cool about having your own characters is the evolution opportunity that you have to be able to innovate and create. I'll move on to the next slide.
Sorry, your cartoon version there is you don't have the nice beard, that amazing beard on that cartoon. Yeah.
See,
hardly recognize
what's funny, and that is funny. See, that's my line about evolution. See, this is the evolution for me. It's funny thing about the beard. People think that is dipped in paint, or I actually did it. It actually came out this way. So, hey, all right, yeah.
It's like my ears. I was born with them, so I feel you.
Hey, I'm telling you, there's unique people out here. Yeah, and what's cool is that we'll move on to the next slide. It went from Jerry to over 50 characters that we have in our arsenal as a company. 12 different stage plays, all original characters. And one thing about it is when you are, first of all, everybody has the gift to create. It's about how far you take it, right? It's all about, what you're going to do with this gift to be able to innovate and find stories and then apply it to characters. That's all the theme parks do. Disney does, Universal, they have like those characters that they can continuously, evolve and change. And as time changes, the characters change, and the stories adjust a little bit. And so so it's fun to see, Jerry now around all these different characters. We're going to run a quick trailer before we go deeper into the company, just so you can get a good feel of the kind of work that we do. We have a lot of fun, and we want to share that with you right now. Yeah.
What a bop. Oh my gosh. I was like dancing back here.
That's the idea. Yeah, suck you in.
So good.
Yes.
Yeah.
And what's neat is that, you know, that quote at the end, ideas in motion. You know, in order to have ideas in motion, you have to continuously thinking about the future, thinking about, you know, what are cool ways to innovate. Themed entertainment is all about that, right? It's all about finding unique ways to present things. You know, for us, it's interactive media stuff, video games, television, film, you know, live experiences, immersive experiences, stuff for attractions, you know, now in this pandemic world, you know, more virtual experiences, you know, tapping more into 3D, you know, tapping into, you know, stuff for Oculus and all these different, you know, tools to be able to tell stories. And so as innovators, especially when we're graduating, right, we're going into this new realm of trying to utilize what we learned in school. You know, this is the perfect time to look and see what's going on around me. You know, what are the needs? You know, because that's one thing about being a storyteller, and especially working in themed entertainment. You're actually doing more than telling stories. You're also solving problems too. And so it's cool to be able to innovate and find unique ways, you know, in themed entertainment. And that's what we do as a company. We not only do storytelling, but we also solve problems for people to have fun anytime they want. All right, so let's go to the next slide. As we move forward, this is just some concepts of some designs that we've created, and just like any company, you know, that does themed entertainment, you know, previs is huge. You know, figuring out what the characters look like, you know, the storyboarding, you know, and we do a lot of 2D and 3D animation. We even do motion capture as well as a company. We're really about figuring out the cool ideas and what they look like. One thing that you'll notice too is representation. You know, the bottom left, you know, see that that young African-American male there. We really are advocates of finding unique ways to show the world that, you know, it's more than one culture, it's more than one perspective, you know, and then applying those, you know, that thing accurately, you know, not because, you know, one thing about the history of themed entertainment, that's always been an inaccuracy of what cultures are and what they look like and how they speak, you know, and so we really try to make that a huge effort to correct those things and in our choices creatively. Because the thing is, you know, that's another thing I'll veer off a little bit. You know, everybody has the ability to change that. It's a choice, you know. So when you have those opportunities to create, you know, especially in previs and concept design, you know, this is the time when you really want to get it right, where you really want to figure out, you know, what's the best way to interpret this story and interpret the characters in the right way. And Katrina, what do you feel about that part as well? You think that's very important what we do, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's actually like one of the core fibers of our company, like core values of what we stand for, not only with the content that we produce and the messages that we want to share, but within our company as well. We are committed to making diversity and inclusion not just a conversation, but an actual action. Like, we make it happen. You know, like I myself, you know, I'm from born and raised in Miami, but I am a Latina. And, you know, I was many times in previous companies I've worked with, I was the only one in the room that looked like me, that spoke my language. And, you know, RJ can attest to that. And so we make it a priority to not only, you know, include and not only to create art that will speak to everybody and be inclusive, but to create teams of diverse voices, people from all over, people with different, you know, backgrounds, and just to have different messages and stories to tell. Because when we have that diverse mosaic of you know, differences, that's when beauty is really made. And that's a huge core value of the Upbeat Imagination Workshop that I am super passionate about as well.
Yeah, well said. Yeah, and that's truly our core, and we see this as a pivoting point to any story. It starts with, you know, how these characters are portrayed. Going to the next slide. We also do sound design and music composition, which is really cool. My major was in music at Georgia Southern University, and I also did Berklee College of Music for audio production. So I am a music guy. Like, that's at my core. I play numerous instruments: piano, drums, bass, saxophone, accordion, harmonica, all kind of stuff. Even stuff I don't need to know how to play, like rosewood flute and Aborigine horn, crazy stuff. But what's cool is that I took that musical ability and said, okay, so, and this is actually how TUIW, got their side gigs past the live shows. We really were heavy in sound design and music composition. Over 70 video games we've done as a company, doing sound design, voice acting, and music composition. Over 3 Parents' Choice Awards as well in this particular category of our company. City of Hoops is really cool. That's actually was produced by Chris Paul from the NBA and also Timbaland as well. I'm actually a voice talent on that series and a sound designer. That's one of our first projects we ever done. Also done some stuff for Universal Studios Japan as a composer. Game of War Fire Age was one of the top grossing games in the App Store. Total Math was also one of the game companies. It's under Enuma. But we did quite a few things. And it was funny. I actually ran into that game. I was in the Apple store one day and it was on all the phones. I was like, when did this happen? but all my sound design and music and voice talent stuff was on that app in the store. And I left American Prohibition Museum lastly because it's one of my favorites. It's actually in my hometown, Savannah. One of my first attractions we ever done as a company. What's cool is we had a huge impact on that. It was only 5 weeks left before the actual place opened. It's in the city market. If you've been downtown Savannah, right before you get to it's right after Broughton Street. And it talks about of course, the prohibition, the legalization of alcohol and that whole process. And they had the mafia in there and NASCAR. All these things were tied to that prohibition era, including creating a moonshine scene. And what was crazy is when we first got started, it was only a dog barking in the whole building. And it was like, we need some more sounds and character, design for the voices. And so it was like, we had to create like 6 different soundscapes in 5 weeks. IMAX was walking up and down the stairs. It was a 3-tier building. And I was there with those creepy looking characters, trying to create an engine and make that sound, and working with the Alcorn system and creating the moonshine. And what does that sound like? What does a NASCAR actual engine sound like? For that type of vehicle, making a actual scene where the mafia just killed a whole bunch of people. What does that sound like? What does that look like? And so it was cool to be able to have that as my first attraction. And to this day, it still is in my hometown, Savannah. So if you're in Savannah, check it out. It's one of our first projects we ever done as a company. It's really great.
It's a great museum. Like, I had no idea that you had. Yeah. Yes, SCAD. We have to go there.
Right. I didn't even think about it. But yeah, that was your boy. That was me. It was crazy. And it was TUIW, the whole crew. I mean, we was in there and out there. So it was one of our favorite projects. And just to have it in my hometown, it just means so much more, because it just sounds the alarm of how important it is to have representation. And it's a great example of empowerment as well. All right, I'll move to the next slide. We also have live shows and attractions. Of course, puppets is our thing. I've worked as Disney Muppeteer for many years and done all those shows at Hollywood Studios. And so, but before that, I had a big history working with puppet characters. And so even articulated head characters, we were doing that back in 2006, even merging that with interactive screens, background screens where the characters are actually pre-recorded and interacting with characters on stage. We were doing that many years ago. We actually found that as a company. And not only that, casting the talent, figuring out, how does it work for stage? How does it work, in 30 minutes, 45 minutes, and budgeting it, figuring out, the twists and turns of it. And that's a big passion of ours. Next to it is actually another shot of the moonshine from the attraction we did at American Prohibition Museum, which was really cool. Trying to figure out what that space sounds like was really fun. And that actually was a hologram character of a guy just cutting up some pieces to create alcohol. He'll look up and he actually turned off that light. So I had to create the flickering sound for that light. in that attraction, which was pretty fun. And to the right is a hologram show that we have called Live in Concert that we're working on that celebrates the diversity of urban music. It's going to come out. You'll see some stuff soon. We actually have a website up, liveinconcertshow.com. And it's really, really neat. Definitely check it out. A lot of 3D characters are in there. If you're into like the gorillas or anything of that nature, this will be, you know, something around that, and it'll include a live band. Really, really cool. And what, also,
what medium is that? Is that like a live show?
Yeah. It's going to be an actual live show, kind of like if you're into like Hatsune Miku. It's kind of that layer of show where you have a hologram character on stage with a live band. That's what that show is going to be like. It's gonna like tour. We had it set up as a tour. Of course, with the pandemic, cool. with everything that's changed, we had to adjust how it was going to be. But yeah, I saw your hand, Kelly. What's up?
What's that address again?
Yeah, it's liveinconcertshow.com. Yeah, and it's really, really neat, and it really is one of those cool opportunities to be able to develop something that is for everyone that is really interested in urban music. And so it's been a labor of love. It actually transitioned into RJ and the Imagination Band. It started as that in 2011, where I was performing with a guitar, and it was an articulated character playing percussion. And then we had a 2D character on the screen playing the piano. That's how it started. And we performed at the Black Heritage Festival a couple of times doing it that way. But yeah, it transitioned from that into an evolutionary change, creative, start where we transitioned it into 3D. And ever since then, like, it's just been really, really unique. So just check out the website, like it. It's really, really fun. And then, of course, at the bottom left is OBF Kids. That's another series that we worked on that has live characters. But this was in a 3D animated space, and so it actually was for a church that we created that for. But what was fun is that just the level of innovation. Pandemic. How are you going to be able to interact with kids? And so we had to figure out a unique way to do it. And so we came up with Ruby, which is on the right, far right with the hair. Rex is her brother, and then Bo, the bear, with the Australian accent. It was really, really fun. It's a great series, and it really touched a lot of kids, thousands of kids every single week online with this particular series. All right. And move on to the next slide. So this is kind of an idea of our teams and what we have: creative directors, show producers, project managers, and so forth. Over 20 contractors we have right now. And what's neat is that, since early last year, it was just me. And then I brought in my friend Leah, who was our first project coordinator. And she has just literally made my life much more easier, makes more sense. And because that's one thing about, creating a company from the ground up. It's like, what the heck are you doing? You're going to kill yourself, trying to do it all alone. But you got to have buy-in. You got to find a way to get people excited about what you're doing, and then not only have, talking about it, but actually, fulfilling. One thing Katrina said, diversity and inclusion is more than a conversation, it's an action. So we really believe in actively, pushing forward, and not only that, making opportunities in more different types of talent, to be able to keep that thing going, keep those juices flowing. And so it's cool to have attraction designers and even people who can program animatronics. We have all kind of talent that's in this group. And what's neat is that 80% of them are people of color, which is fantastic to see that happen.
I know. So, to add to that, usually it's the other way around, where it's like maybe people of color are not even 20% of what, in normal companies. It's just amazing to have, to be amongst a team of people that, have different voices to share, have different perspectives to share. And it's all so open and everybody is included. And it's really, really cool. I can't speak highly enough about what RJ has created and, what we're, all bought into, because it's pretty phenomenal. I don't know any other company like as diverse as this within the themed entertainment organization, like at all.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that, because one thing about it is not like, oh, look at us, y'all. Hi, we different from everybody else. Yeah. Like, no, it's not how that's supposed to be. It's supposed to be an example of how to innovatively move forward. Every company knows they need to do that, right? Because diversity and inclusion efforts are at every single company. But the only problem is that it's a lot of conversation. It's not demonstration, right? So you have to really show the world that you get it. And the only way to do that is to empower people that don't look like you. And yeah, I like what Kelly just said in the DMs. Less talk, more do. That's exactly what you need to do. Exactly. Yeah. And what's interesting is that a lot of companies, they get frustrated with the process. I don't know if I'm ready for that. I don't know if I'm equipped for it. Yes, you are, because somebody gave you a chance, right? So you have to be able to do the same thing for others. And you got to see the benefit of having different voices and different faces in the place, and just watch the stuff that unfolds. Because look how cool stuff is already, right? Imagine when you add representation to it, stuff will be levitating and things will be changing like you've never seen before. Wakanda would have been here. I mean, Jetsons would have been here if there was so many ways that we could have connected that early, so, but it's not too late. And that's what we want to do as a company. I think we have a couple more slides in our deck, and then we'll do the more dialogue here. And then, of course, Creative Quest Foundation is under our company as well. Creative Quest is a group that focuses on minorities that are pursuing the themed entertainment industry, and giving them tools and giving them access to be able to have that conversation. Just a platform to learn. We're currently working on a online platform that's going to have a lot of different media assets that'll be free and accessible for them to learn about what does it take to be a creative director, an illustrator, a writer, a producer. And so that's what we're going to do. That's kind of we're creating a lynda.com kind of level of experience to be able to train, people of color, of what do you have? Because that's one thing that I didn't have when I got started. I didn't even know I was in the industry for 20 years until, 6 or 7 years ago. I've said that numerous times on my talks, but I'm really serious. I really didn't know what I had. I always was an outlaw, in my case, a little outcast, trying to figure out, how do I fit in, I used to go to all the groups with my pamphlet, my little bag, and, trying to figure out how to talk to people. And sometimes it's like, you just don't know, what to do. And so with Creative Quest Foundation, we try to, just get, all that pomp and circumstance stuff out the way, and just say, hey, this is how you do it. Here's a cool person you need to know that does the exact same thing that you want to do. Y'all hook up, y'all meet. We did this at Nickelodeon early last year. It went so well to see, a girl that just got started doing stop motion graphics, like Nightmare Before Christmas, but self-taught, and talking to someone who created Islands of Adventure. To see that conversation go was super, super cool. And I can't wait, when everything's back to normal, we can have those events again. But we plan to have those virtually. And you'll see our pillars in the next slide of the Creative Quest. So our 3 pillars are gather, grow, and give. And of course, we try to create something where people can gather. Of course, in the pandemic, we can't do that, but just creating more opportunities for people to connect. And then once we get that information, we can grow together, being able to empower, give each other resources so they can learn, and then take that and give that back. The third one, give it back to the community, just so the cycle can continue. And because one thing that you don't want to do is you don't want to be able to get, power and then not teach people how to use it. That's one thing. That's how generations get lost, right? If we had a recipe that was in the family, and it was like, well, what Grandma Susie used to make a banana bread pudding, and we just don't remember what's in it. I just don't know. And so it's not, and that's the same thing it is with this. You have to be able to share that recipe, that thing that makes things work, and be able to share that in with the community so it never gets lost. And so in the minority community, that needs to happen for themed entertainment. And with all of us working together, we can definitely get there fast. and that's it. That's TUIW. And we really see this as a great opportunity to share it with you and the fam, and just, yeah, it's always a privilege to create.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing all that and putting that beautiful deck together. I will say I met RJ at that Nickelodeon open house that Creative Quest put on last year.
Yeah.
And since that last February, it's been almost a year now, I personally have felt like my, experience within the themed entertainment industry that was a huge catalyst for, the things that I've been able to do, from meeting Patrick and, starting with TETV.
Yeah.
I met Melody Matheny there, and now I'm part of the Slice Creative Network. So I just want to say, it's working. Like, these things work, and, putting in the effort to prioritize diversity inclusion in an actionable way it works. Like you said, like, it's not just part of a mission statement, it's an actionable thing that's happening. So yeah, thank you so much for putting that all together, and now we're all chatting.
That's amazing. I didn't know that part. That's pretty incredible. Thanks for sharing that, Emily. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
One of the cool things that you guys have been able to do, and we've had on a few companies that kind of operate under this same model, but we haven't ever really gotten into it. And I think a lot of people aren't familiar with it. Is a lot of the companies in our industry are on project basis, right? They'll get hired for a project. They'll bring in a bunch of contractors. That's why we have so many freelance people, so many people who move around, is because so much of our work is project based. I'd like to kind of pick your brain a little bit about how you guys operate in that environment. Like, how many full-time employees do you have? Contractors come and go. Like, how do you keep the pipeline for all of your people? That kind of stuff.
Yeah. Right now, what's interesting is that we've been functioning as a themed entertainment company, like how everybody else is, like under a year. So a lot of this is really, we actually would just have it right now. We have a part-timer and full-time, part-timer, and then some contractors. And we just find talent. We just network, get to know people, of course, relationships that we've developed over the years, in the industry, kind of funnels that talent. But the thing is, and that's the thing I'm always saying, you gotta be hungry for it. You gotta be hungry to find creative ways. And I think another thing that's interesting about, people are saying, well, how do you find opportunity? You create it too, right? You don't have to actually,
Absolutely.
Like, look, do you need anything? Do you? I mean, I was like, look back there. Like, you got things you can create, let's create stories around them, and that's the cool thing about having your own IPs, is to be able to not, when things dry a tad, you innovate, and I think sometimes people, wiggle their fingers a little too long, and forget that, hey, you actually have the capacity to develop something unique. Trust yourself, right? And I think sometimes people waste too much time waiting for others. You will be waiting forever, I mean, it's just like waiting for the bus with no bus schedule, you gotta go, you gotta know what's up. You gotta empower yourself, and you gotta find unique ways to make that happen. And so as contractors, and that's what I like to do. And I know Katrina, she'll say this, you have to grind. You got to find unique ways, to empower your team, and that's going to require you getting to know, the biggie wigs that can give you those 6 to 12 month, 2 year, 3 year contracts, mixing that with things that you want to, kind of launch yourself, and then finding that nice gumbo. And then you look up and, you have plenty of things to do. Yeah,
gumbo is prevalent right now. And Mardi Gras next week, right?
Yeah. Beignet.
So is it mostly you who's out here finding the work, or do you give the agency to your contractors to bring in stuff?
A lot of it at this point is just relationships that we've developed. I mean, Katrina knows people too. That's the benefit of having some industry experience, is that you tend to know how to find the needs. But then, but here's the thing, and I think this is a good segue into branding. How do you present yourself? Do you present yourself as, I'm not sure what I'm doing, or is it like, hey, we know what we're doing, and this is how we innovate, and this is how we create. You want to know more about us? And that's the thing that sells. That's the thing that gets the doors open, is to be able to say, you know, what does your website look like? Are you using, you know, media like how we did our reel? You know, one thing that's an interesting thing about TUIW, this just shows that the importance of branding. For quite a while, people thought that we just did puppet shows. That was it. And it wasn't because they didn't think we couldn't do it. You know, we couldn't do more. It was that, you know, that was what was representing, you know, our company in our reel. And I looked at it like, yeah, that's a whole bunch of puppet shows. So I said, well, let's throw in what we're doing with 3D. Let's throw in, you know, the motion capture characters. Let's throw in, you know, some stuff we did with film. Let's throw in, you know, more. And then when we did that, then people started reaching out, like almost like the same week. And so it's all about, you know, just figuring out, you know, what is your niche, what's the problem you want to solve, and then brand it correctly and get to know people. You know, we have all these different resources out there: Slice Creative Network, Themed Entertainment Association. You know, even what you guys are doing here on the network. I mean, these are all tools that you can use to be able to figure out how to brand yourself, and then from there, you know, build those networks and build those relationships, and not be afraid to share what you're doing with the world. And you never know, people may definitely need what you're doing.
Yeah, I think it's a good point to, you know, we're all storytellers, right? And you should be doing that not just with your company's brand, with your personal brand. And for people who are just graduating, you know, you can't be showing all the stuff that you've done in school and just done there, because, you know, you're gonna have to start figuring out what you want to do and just do it, and then show people you've done it, because that's the only way they're going to know what you can do. If you're waiting for somebody to give you a job doing something that you have no proof that you've ever done before, you're going to be waiting a long time. So
Right.
I do want to add to that too. I think it's really important to be open-minded with your story, because I mean, like, RJ and I both have music degrees. Like, and here we are. And it's just so important to just be along for the journey, because the journey is going to keep evolving if you have an open mind to accept it. And with this pandemic, I mean, I think this was a perfect exercise in evolution for TUIW, because, you know, in a year that so many people, you know, did not get a chance, that people lost their jobs. I mean, myself included, with Disney, and, you know, it was such a hard year for so many of us in this industry. That was the most pivotal year for us. And it was because we had an open mind and we evolved. And you take risks and you're not afraid to make mistakes, because you just pick yourself back up again and you learn. But I think my biggest advice to anybody who is listening, who has just graduated, is don't pigeonhole yourself. Keep your mind open, because opportunities are out there, and a lot of them, you know, are out there when you have that open mind and when you create them yourself. So be creative with what it is that you do, and just kind of be along for the journey. Don't worry about what others are doing, because your story is different, and your story is just the pages are blank, and you can write whatever you want on it. You just have to keep your eyes and ears and your heart open to whatever it is that comes across your way. Don't say no. Just keep going.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
Definitely. And I mean, you kind of mentioned, like, you guys both have music degrees, but you are doing X, Y, Z, and the rest of the alphabet. So, like, a lot of people have problems, and I know, Emily, you wrote this down in our notes, like, have a problem with that, the imposter syndrome. Like, how do you guys, I mean, I'm sure everyone's felt that at some point. How do you guys deal with it, and what have you, you know, what kind of advice do you have for those of us who feel that on the daily?
Imposter, as far as, like, do I belong in this space around these cool people, kind of like that kind of imposter thing? Yeah,
some people feel like they've been given chances that they feel like they don't always you know, have the skills or ability to do. When they do, you know, the imposter syndrome is a syndrome because people are feeling like they don't have the abilities that they actually do. They don't feel like they're in the right place or doing the right thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and kind of adding to that too, as to why I put that down in one of our questions too, is also, as like a young person of color, oftentimes you felt like you're put into a situation as the diversity hire, or, you know, as, you know, the person to be on the pamphlet type of thing. So kind of battling those internal feelings as well. But it's like, no, you deserve to be there. Like, you were hired for a reason. Even if you were the diversity hired, like, prove it to them. I don't know, something like that.
I think my answer to that question is take the things that you're most insecure about and actually bring them to the forefront and own them. Like, there are so many things that I've been insecure about, which is, you know, my accent. You know, coming from Miami, I had a little bit of a Spanish accent. I trip on my words. You know, I just the things that you're insecure about, just own them and make them who you are and be your authentic self. There's a reason why I wear hoop earrings every day, because it's just a symbol of who I am. It's a cultural, you know, it's me being bold and unapologetically Latina. So whether you like it or not, whether it's not Disney look, I don't care. Like, this is who I am. So take those things that you are insecure about, whether it's, you know, whether or not you're a person of color, whether or not you're, you know, you are young, and use them to your benefit, because there are things to your benefit. Like, if you're young, you have, you know, a different perspective that, you know, the older generation doesn't have. You're probably more technically savvy. You're probably more social media savvy. So take those things that you're insecure about and actually own them and make those weaknesses your actual strengths, because that's what's going to set you apart. Because there's no sense of hiding who you are and not thinking that you're deserving to be in that room, because there is a reason why you're in that room. And the reason why you're in that room is because you are special. So own those things about yourself, and everybody else will see that confidence come through. And you have to kind of fake it till you make it a little bit. Not gonna lie.
I want to add on to that. That was really good. Yeah. I want to add on to that. Companies have problems celebrating difference. Right? You know, it's like we need everybody to look like this, say this, respond this way, and this is how you stay. And it's like, really? That's interesting. You know, and for a while I felt like an imposter, right? Because I wasn't like everyone else. You know, not just people of color, not just being a African American male. I mean, for me, you know, my major was in music, my minor is in fashion design. So I was like, you know, throwing colors around and putting on these unique jackets and, you know, shoes and dunks and hats. And for a while I was like, man, I just don't have enough button ups to be in this environment. It's like, dude, can I really do things entertainment? I mean, no one looks like me. And it's like, you know, I realized, like, I think that's the strength that I have, is that I'm different. And so use that to your advantage. And so I literally was like, you know what? Forget it. If I'm going to come up in, if they want me to be here, they're going to take up the cut up jeans and the dunks and the camouflage hat, and I'm going to walk straight in. And I literally did that. And guess what? I still was there. I didn't try. And so it was just like, it was all in my mind. And here's the interesting thing. As a person of color, they always felt, there was always this history of uniqueness is wrong. You have to be like this in order to be around us. You have to keep your head down and follow instructions. That's all that people of color, especially in the Black community, you know, and the slaves, you know, there was a lot of dehumanizing, not being able to celebrate who you are as a person. Keep in mind, you know, people of color, their identities were lost in that whole thing. You know, some people was like, I'm from this country, I'm from that country, this is that background. You know, a lot of that was snatched away. And so when you take that element of not knowing who you are and then dehumanizing, you know, you feel like you don't belong in certain arenas. You feel like you can't fit in because all those pieces are missing, you know, but there's a way to get that back. And that's just empowering yourself and believing in what you're capable of doing. And not only that, you know, that's why diversity and inclusion is important. You know, that representation is important because it empowers you, right? You know, like what Emily was saying, I didn't even know that opened up a lot of doors for her. So that moment, you know, at Nick really did and give her a sense of like, hey, I am who I am, and I can be in this industry, and she got a space in that industry. So it's the same thing, you know, that we all have to do. We have to empower our people that are feeling that way, and the people that are feeling that way know that you have the strength to be that person. Because I was like that too. And it wasn't until I didn't care about what everybody else was doing is when I realized how much power I really did have.
It's so true. I mean, I felt that way not only as a Hispanic person, but as a woman in production, you know, and then most recently as a mother. I mean, I have two small kids, you know, a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old, and you know, being pregnant on set, you know, just having to find rooms to pump. You know, after I had the baby, I mean, things like that I was just felt so guilty about. I'm like, why do I feel so guilty about being who I am? This is what you get, because not only am I a mom to my kids, I'm a mom in this production because I keep the wheels going. I'm a mom in this production because I'm organized, because I am in charge and I take care of my crew and I take care of this project and I do it and I nurture it the same way that I nurture my kids. So then I just rebranded myself, and you know, my little business is called Production Mama, and that's just what I did. Is I took what I was insecure about and I made it who I am, and what you see is what you get, and if you don't like it, you don't like it. But guess what? People tend to like people that are true to who they are, and if you find who you are at the core and you just present yourself that way, then I mean, if people don't like you, then they can just go away because you don't want to work with them anyway. But if you are your true authentic self and they accept who you are, then so many of those boundaries are going to be broken right off the bat, and you could just focus on doing the cool stuff and creating and being, and you know, working. And that's my advice, is just finding that authenticity. And like what RJ said, a lot of it is just kind of getting tired of it and, you know, just not caring anymore. And that comes with time. Easier said than done, but you'll get there.
Yeah,
I love it.
That's beautiful advice. I wish I was writing so we could, you know, publish this in a book and be like how to overcome imposter syndrome, the next project. But no, that is truly beautiful, and like, thank you so much for all that advice. And I know our viewers definitely will get a lot of that out of that too, because I think we're lucky that a lot of the younger generations now are becoming empowered and, you know, gaining outspoken characteristics and things like that, which is beautiful. But there are, you know, still folks that have to overcome a lot of these insecurities. So like this advice, and also seeing TUIW in action and putting, you know, their words into action as well, is a great thing. So yeah, thank you so much for that.
And I think a lot of that too is that we're creating content that is going to hopefully speak for diverse audiences, so that hopefully the next generation won't have these problems, because it'll just be like, oh yeah, all right, cool, like this is normal. So that's the whole goal and mission, is like, you know, we're creating characters that have different hair textures, that have different skin colors, that, you know, maybe, you know, come from different countries and backgrounds, but you know, that's what we are. We're a beautiful, you know, just melting pot of different cultures in this country. And the more that we can have kids see characters that look like them on TV, the more normal it could feel. And then hopefully we won't be having these conversations, you know, 20 years from now.
Well, and even just the, you know, all the people who see others than themselves on the TV, you know, and just normalizes that. Like, you know, how many times in the past has it been where, you know, just they've never had any experience with this other culture, and when they come across it, they do something and they mess it up because they just don't know, out of ignorance. So it's important for everyone to see diversity, for sure.
That's right.
You kind of mentioned companies who are just or they're just talking the talk, and maybe companies who have made a diversity hire, right? What would you recommend for companies who are looking to honestly hire and maintain a culture of diversity and inclusion? Like, what are some of the things that you've seen just fail, or like, I'd love to get some advice out there for those kind of people who are actually looking to make a difference.
Yeah. Well, we one thing we don't want to do is the checkbox syndrome. Like, hey, I got my Black person, I got my Asian person, you know. And what's so funny is, like, it was almost like record time. Like, after George Floyd, you know, it was like, we need somebody with 25 years of experience doing all this crazy stuff, and make sure they're African American. And I'm just like, first of all, you don't empower enough people to do that. So it's like a unicorn situation. But with these companies, you have to figure out, you know, well, here's my advice. This is what they did for me. is that you look at your skill set and figure out how you fit in. And sometimes you have to create something. Sometimes you have to be open about creating something to open up the door, you know, and because there will be a lot of people, you know, so it'll be people who will qualify, you know, from the gate, you know. And the thing is, minorities, they don't want to be, you know, just chosen just because they're a certain race. It's because they really do know some things too. That's one. But when you have that person that's multifarious, that still trying to figure out what they do, but you see value in them, like really give them a chance to get like sit down. Like sometimes it just takes one meeting to figure out, you know, what does it take to, you know, get you with us? Like, tell me what your skill set is and how does that fit? And you find out unique things. You know, one of the companies that got me on, you know, they really figured out, like, you know, they sat down, was like, okay, we want you here. So let's figure out, you know, let's just pull back the layers. Let's find out all that you do. And it's like, holy smokes, we don't know what that's called, but we're just going to call it this. Start next week. Like literally it was like that. And that needs to happen more often in this new world. You know, there's going to be a lot of unique people with unique skill sets, especially in the minority community, you know, and you have to figure out a way to embrace that. Now, some people will define that as a risk, but life is a risk. Having a job is a risk. Having a company is a risk. You know, you have to, you know, also add on to that list of risks, you know, when it comes down to diversity and inclusion, because there'll be some efforts where it'll have to feel a tad radical, but because you see the benefit of that choice, you know, is going to really, you know, show some incredible growth if you do it. You know, I mean, when somebody empowered me to do that, I mean, it was like, oh my gosh, so many things manifested just because somebody was actively taking a chance on me. And that's all people really need, you know. So these companies, you have to kind of get off your high horse a little bit and stop trying to make assumptions that everybody gets with who you are and understands your style. Sometimes you have to have a humbling seat and see, you know, what can I learn from you? Like, how many times companies ask other people, like, what can you bring to us that fits our needs, that gives us a different perspective? And if you do that more, you'll get really cool people. And I mean, you just never know. It could just change the whole way you do work, the whole way you look at your own products.
Yeah, as soon as you give people the agency, they'll take ownership, and just, you know, that's how you get the truly amazing things that come out, is just giving people the agency to do the things that they're interested in. So
I think RJ nailed it when he said, like, companies need to think outside the box and take risks. Because, you know, we're not comparing apples to apples here. We're comparing apples to oranges when we're comparing people. And I mean, I've noticed working in corporate entertainment is that there's a certain mold that they kind of want you to fit into. Break that mold. Take risks. And the big problem is that there's not a lot of diversity in the above the line, in the upper leadership, executive leadership level. So there's really nobody from the top that's looking at it through that lens. And what I've noticed is a big failure is that it just seems like a PR campaign.
Oh no, we might have lost Katrina.
But yeah, I'll take it from there while she's giving us a nice pose. Yeah, it's like like a PR campaign. You know, sometimes when you're dealing with a lot of these different companies, you know, they're really trying to figure out, you know, what's the best way to be able to, you know, get and attract people. But, you know, you have to be able to take chances. I like what Kelly, I don't give Kelly a shout out because she's putting really cool stuff in this DM. You know, she said, I love what VP Harris' mom told her about breaking barriers. You may be the first to do many things, but make sure you're not the last. Absolutely. That's important. And that's just a simple principle that a lot of these companies need to just take on. You know, you can be a trendsetter. It's okay to be a trendsetter. It's okay to take risks and to jump out there. And I mean, another thing she said, variety is the spice of life. Yeah. You know, you got to have different ways of looking at that, and people bring that to the environment. They really do. Perspectives. That's the thing. That's the trap. It's a trap. They say that in Star Wars, right? It's like, you have to have that different spices. I remember one time I was making a vegan guacamole. I lost like 25 pounds, by the way. And I was on this vegan thing. And what's neat is that they had this guacamole and it had like all these spices. Cause me, I'm not like a cooker. I just got like, my crushed pepper, for my pizza, and then some black pepper and some salt. That's about it. But this thing had the nutritional yeast and the this and the paprika and the other and the other and the other. And it didn't make sense why I needed so much stuff. The lemon zest, like really? Like you take a lemon and you get the pieces up, like really? You put that in there? Like why would you do that? But the variety in the spices and all those different things collided into that guacamole. And I was just like, whoa, that's cool. That's real neat to be able to have so many different kind of textures and varieties. That's the same thing that these companies need to just take on. I don't know why I need, this type of personality and this type of perspective, but let me trust that once everything comes together, that it's going to do something really cool, And sometimes companies are they're very they just get really worried, and a lot of it is justified because there's a lot of money on deck. But there has to be some level of trust in the importance of creativity and empowerment that can just stop that cycle and really, really dig in and find unique ways and unique things through empowering cool people.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I was trying to think of what makes guacamole non-vegan in the first place, and I couldn't. I think most guacamole is vegan, right?
Yeah. I mean, it was just vegetables, pound in with a whole bunch of stuff. And I was just like, when I was on that regimen, I was like, man, I'm gonna be hungry. Oh my gosh, you think I'm gonna live off of this? And I actually was fine,
Yeah.
And that's another thing. You're thinking that it's not gonna work, once you get it, but you're like, you know what? That did what I thought I didn't expect to deal with. I thought I was really gonna want my hamburger after that, but I didn't need it. And that's what these companies have to do. They have to trust in the process and how things come together. And once it comes together, it will be fulfilling.
The king of the metaphor over here.
I was gonna say any food analogy, and you hooked me in. So
yeah. I thought we were gonna go back to gumbo.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
You were talking a bit before, RJ, about like taking that risk, and I think that applies to anyone, and especially in these unprecedented times, folks are having to deal with a lot of different things that are thrown at them, whether that's being furloughed, laid off, different things like that. And I think we've seen this really beautiful thing where people have, taken it into their own hands to create these, new organizations, companies for themselves. And I think we're going to continue to see that, as these times go on. Do you have any advice for people who are, looking to make that step, either Katrina or RJ?
Of creating something from the ground up, right?
Yeah.
And I'll make sure I be short. I want Katrina to talk too. It's really about figuring out, what makes you happy. Like what's some things that you want to do for a living, and you wouldn't mind doing it every day. For me, it was storytelling. Really figuring out, how to create worlds so people can learn things. I come from a background of educators. And so I always saw it as like an opportunity to express yourself. And so that gives me so much joy to be able to express myself in unique ways. And so I saw that as my base. And then I found, how do I make that into a career? And so it takes time to figure that out. It's going to be like one thing, where okay, this is working, and then you actually weave that into this quilt that you'll be, you know, creating forever. But then you got to be open to, you know, the weaving and figuring out, you know, the unique things that the relationships. I always saw talent as like this thing, and then it actually has pipes coming out of it, and it's always like things, different directions your talent can take you. And so if you're open to that, you're not closed-minded, you know, in the front end, blocking yourself from figuring out what that is, you'll be able to, you know, find out, you know, how to utilize what you have and make it be able to enhance, you know, your future and in unique ways. Yeah, so I mean, that's all I did from you know, just because I was just a musician. I was locked in into my perspective through just music. But it wasn't until I really saw music in a visual sense is when everything else started making sense. And I'm like, holy smokes, it's a career, and it can go this way, it can go that way. And that's what happened. So anyone can get to that point, but it starts here, you know, and it can't be based off of, you know, what you think is right. Think of everything as just, it can be right or wrong or a maybe. And people think like, it has to be this way in order for me to understand. It's like, no, there's going to be a lot of things that's going to be weird about it. And all you do is, it's almost like stuff that's floating in the air, and your job is just to do this, you know, and then just make sense of it. So it's not like red, I don't want that. I don't like blue, you know, don't do that. Just do this. And then watch stuff happen. That's cool. I mean, what do you think, Katrina?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you just got to have an open mind. And, you know, again, I mentioned that earlier about it's not about the destination, it's the journey. And, you know, when you have that open mind, not only in your career, but as an employer, when you're looking for diverse talent, you know, it's just going to break down barriers and break down walls and create paths that you never thought, you know, existed. I mean, like, I never in a million years like thought that I would be working in themed entertainment. Like, I just thought I was going to be a singer my whole life, and like I was perfectly fine just singing. And if it wasn't for just kind of like having an open mind and seeing where it would take me, and then just saying yes. Don't say no because you don't like the color. Don't say no because, oh, I didn't go to school for this. No, just do it, because you never know where it's going to take you. And, you know, that's what this is all about, is creating and having fun. And you don't know what's going to happen until you just do it. And you have an open mind that will allow you to go there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And side note, she really is a great, you know, singer for a girl for Ipanema.
I was going to say, are you still performing, Katrina?
Yes, I do perform. The pandemic has kind of slowed it down.
Yeah.
I sang in December was my last gig, but I went to school for jazz. I graduated from the University of Miami, one of the best jazz programs in the world, and I specialized in Brazilian jazz. And I studied abroad and toured with a jazz band when I was 23. And I just love to sing, and it's who I am. And again, it's owning those parts of who I am. And, you know, being unapologetic about them. So even on set, you know, working in a Disney and broadcast, they know me as a singer, because, you know, whatever it is that you went to school for, those skills are transferable. You know, like, you take what it is that you learned. And for me, being a singer has taught me how to be confident, has taught me how to work with people, has taught me how to perform, has taught me how to have discipline. Because, you know, being a music major, RJ, we had to spend hours in the practice room, you know, things like that. Like, those skills are transferable, own them. And singing, that's who I am. Like, I'm going to take everything that defines me, who I am as a musician, as a performer, and as a singer. You're going to get that as part of the package when you hire me, because that's who I am, and I'll never, ever, ever lose that. So yes, that's a long answer to yes, I still sing, and I love to sing, and I'll always sing.
Yeah. Just like how people, you know, they'll always know how to write, to draw, to do all. They may not do that in the actual job, but, you know, those are all skills that make you who you are. And so, company, that's another thing too with companies, you know, we talk about giving advice to companies, you know, really embrace like everything that they are, you know, Like we do that a lot. Like Leah Rudd, she's our project coordinator. Project coordinators scheduling meetings, meeting notes, blah 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 blah. But she also does, a lot of graphic design, website design, and I mean, I've done websites, but it doesn't make me happy. But with her, it's like, oh, give it to me, please. I like that stuff. I was like, you really do? She's like, yes, give it to me now. And I'm just like, okay, there you go. So now you're empowered this week. Instead of doing a whole bunch of admin stuff, you can do some creative development. And we do that all the time with our company. We don't lock you in and just say, we just need you to just do this every single day. That just makes people unhappy and it makes them weird. And of course you got to do your due diligence, not saying that, okay, just drop everything. Don't be responsible and just, your day to day. Like you can kind of, especially with companies, you can create, a unique experience for all of your staff to be able to have the things that they want to do for their job, but also do things that gives them joy and tap into a creativity that could lead into some promotional opportunities. I mean, this is a new era we're in. We all went flatline for the pandemic. So there should be no excuse for us to not look at this and see unique ways to empower our teams, because you got to figure, because the one thing I don't like with companies is that I don't know anybody that does this stuff. And I'm just like, hey, you got somebody that's in food and beverage that has a doctorate. And first of all, because they applied for the job, you didn't put them on, so they had to do food and beverage. So if you got to know your people, and you got to know the people that are around, that's already in reach and empower them, you just, you never know. I mean, it could be all different types of people around you. Just never know.
RJ, that's such a good point, because so many times with these companies, like, your talent is right in front of you. You just need to get to know them. You just need to ask questions. And you need to and take a risk on them, because that risk will come back twofold, because that loyalty that comes when you take a risk on somebody, I mean, that loyalty comes, and you will not only have tap into a talent and a passion, but you will tap into somebody who will always remember that you opened that door for them. And there are a couple people at Disney that did that for me, and RJ's included, bringing me on his team. Once we open that door for somebody, you build your network, you build your allies, and that's how you take over the world.
And it's one of the easiest things to do. It's just make connections within your network of people you meet and people and just introducing other people. And I know personally, when somebody comes back to me and was so grateful that you made some connection that literally took you 2 seconds, doesn't really even any effort on your part. And when they come back and they are so grateful because you made this connection, and now they might have some work, or they, are just, it's an incredible feeling. So, I mean, I highly recommend it. It's an easy thing to do, and the payoff is huge. And it's the way that, we are going to get better in this industry, in diversity and inclusion. It's just making sure everybody knows everybody.
Absolutely. That's true.
I think also breaking down those molds and those stereotypes, I think is huge. Just when I look at these job descriptions and that are out there, you don't have to check all those boxes, because you might have boxes that are not on that list that are special and relevant and transferable. So think about what it is that makes you special, and realize that, you don't need to fit into anybody's mold. You're your own mold. And the same thing with companies. When you're hiring, be open-minded to what other skills other people may bring to the table, because like RJ was saying, that's how you evolve, and that's how you grow. And that for an artist and for a person who's in this industry, like, that is how you continue to move forward, and that's how doors open, and that's how you keep an open mind. I mean, it just kind of all works together, and it comes with just being who you are and not fitting into any of those molds, and companies accepting that and being open-minded to that.
Mm-hmm. That's good. Yeah, I think I can give you another perspective too on if you don't do that. if you don't give people opportunities, you never know. Cause that's one thing you ever like for me, having that chance to be creative was all I really wanted, but a lot of people just saw me as admin support. And so what that did to me was second guess, like, oh, am I really that creative enough? And that just messed it up. And I was like, no, forget it. I am creative enough. If these people can't see it, I will step over them. My pop always say something so funny when people are slow to give you a chance or don't get it. He always say, oh, they'll catch up. Kind of like that, which is true. Because I've been in those situations where, I've had people, with companies, major companies that couldn't see my worth and my value. And then I said, forget it. And I went on, to something else. And then I saw them in the audience during my talk for the Themed Entertainment Association. So it's like, okay, those moments are weird, but you don't want to be that guy where you just assume that, oh, they just don't know enough and whatever else. You never know. I always tell people, you never know who will write you a check one day. So you be nice to everyone. You don't create these scenarios that cause you to miss things. And a lot of companies just see that as safe zoning themselves, but you have to be open. You just never know who's going to end up being your boss one day, so you have to be kind. And you have to be patient with people. I mean, like with Katrina, I mean, we never saw this coming. And now I feel like we're like the Bonnie and Clyde of themed entertainment now. So, doing all kind of crazy stuff, working on attractions, I mean, from all levels, from all major companies and down, and, just to have that. I mean, I always say, imagine if I was a douchebag to her when I was a performer at the show, when she was working. You were like, yeah, boy, I'm not working.
Yeah, likewise, other way around. I mean, you just never know where you're gonna go, so you gotta just be nice, a good person to everybody. Like, that's it.
Yeah.
You never know.
Yeah, we say it a lot on the show too, that the themed entertainment industry is very well connected. So, especially within this industry, yeah, just have a good attitude and try to get along with folks and also advocate for yourself when it's needed for sure. But
I'd love to kind of get what is something that anyone can do, after they stop watching this video, what's something they can go do to help, further these issues, like to help make the change. So I think so many of these, so many people can easily sit back and say, well, I'm not hiring anybody. I'm not a manager. I don't, of course, when I'm in that situation, I'll have those thoughts, but like, what is something that they could go do right now to help make change? And Emily and Kelly, you guys too, if you have if anything comes to mind as well, I'd love to hear, because we can talk about it's all talk, right? Until you start making action. And so I'd love to like actually get some actionable next steps for some people.
Yeah, of course. Action items to make things happen. Look at the resources around you and trust that those resources are in your life for a reason. Social media is huge. It gives everybody a platform to stand on. Just some of the stuff, like, you ever seen a guy, I don't know his name, but he is a news reporter in Charlotte, and he just started he just did his dance moves and whatever else, and you looked up, he was just doing that just for fun, and you looked up and now he's dancing with it with everybody on the internet, just going viral, doing cool stuff. Just that thing, just finding out what you love and then using the resources around you, like social media, to get the word out. We have such a digital world now. We can release something tonight. Think about that power, back, I mean, I was born in the 80s. There was no such thing as being able to, if you wanted to, release something, you had to get a manager and an agent and all this money and everything, to even do what people do, in 5 minutes now. So because you have, especially those of you that are graduating, going into the next level, use those tools to be able to get some awareness out about how cool you see the world, and how in your perspective, and just see all that manifest into, unique goals. People hit me up in the DMs all the time because of something I posted. And it's like, hey, I like what you did there. Can you do that for me? And that's how it starts, And so you have to literally trust yourself, and that the tools that we have now, with social media and with the creative tools, like if you want to be able to get into illustration, look into getting a MacBook or a PC or whatever else, getting the right specs, knowing the types of softwares, knowing the type of skills that you need, taking an online class, whatever you need to do to get equipped with it. But once you do all those things, package it and then present it and share it and have your friends share it, and things just start happening. That's all that happened for us. And so I encourage you, just use what's around you, because trust me, it's definitely enough.
Yeah, and I want to add to what RJ is saying, like, use the internet to your favor. Like, purchase your .com, whatever your name is, .com. That's, make sure you open all of your social media profiles, a YouTube channel, Instagram, everything, and work on your personal brand. Because when people hire you, they're not only hiring you as a person, they're hiring you as a brand and the story that you're telling. So use those platforms online to tell your own individual story, even if your story is just begun. You are a person, so bring that forward. Like, I'm helping my sister. She's actually a music major, getting her master's, and I'm helping her with this right now. It's like, did you buy alyssamena.com? Did you, open a Facebook artist page? Start off with those simple things and showcase the things that you did at school for now as your portfolio, and then build from there. And never stop creating and never stop writing your story, because your story will keep going forever and ever if you want it to. It's up to you, because you're the one that's driving it and writing it.
That's right.
Yeah, and I will say, to add specifically about diversity and inclusion, because I've actually been looking for roles. You see these a lot pop up, especially within the past year since last summer, of like diversity and inclusion coordinator, manager, things like that. And I've had the thought of, what exactly is that role, and what is their day to day? And to RJ's point, social media is so wonderful, and especially as yuppie as it is, LinkedIn is a great resource. And I've connected with folks who are in, these D&I roles, and, ask them what their day-to-day is, exactly what their roles entail, and different things like that. So just to echo again, RJ and Katrina, using that to your advantage, and especially now because we're all at home. So using those online resources as an advantage to, really get a well-rounded view of what you're looking at is a great thing, and something that we can all take an opportunity for during this time. So.
Absolutely.
And create your art. I'm singing. I'm actually recording right now, and use this time to do what it is that you love to do. So whether you're an artist, use this time to create your own art. And even though you may not be getting paid for it, this is the time to create, and this is the time to really harness your talent. Because after this is all over, I foresee a big renaissance in our lives. So yeah, take this time to create, and for the sake of creating, and be passionate about it, and don't give yourself any limits.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so we are coming up on about the hour and a half mark, so we do want to respect the time of all of our guests and of our hosts here too. So to kind of bring it back to, the Upbeat Imagination Workshop, we saw an amazing deck at the beginning of this, and like you said, RJ, it's about under a year of your development. What do you see for the future for TUIW? How do you want this to grow?
Yeah, I really see a really unique world of content. Well, first of all, our characters need a place to live. They need things to be able to, opportunities to be able to, share their stories. We have so many different things in the Upbeat world, and to be able to flesh that out, giving kids alternatives. Right now, we're working on Upbeat's TV, which is a really big platform that we're creating. with content that we've created over the years around our characters. And we're going to be introducing them in unique ways to this new generation. It's interesting. I have a daughter. She's 5 years old. And I created a character named Swanson many years ago. I was one of the first characters that actually was the sidekick of Jerry. And to see, the progression of that, now that she has a YouTube channel called Melania Swanson's World, to have that innovation, continue on as a company, finding unique ways to still keep these characters alive. And that's on the original side. On the services that we have, you want to be able to, work on more attractions, work on more film and television. We really like helping companies figure out what their idea is. And I really have joy in that. And to see the different types of companies reaching out to us is really going to open up so many doors. And so I want to be able to do that. And of course, the final thing for our company is to keep pushing representation. To diversify the creative space, it takes more than just one conversation. It's another and another and another, and it has to be a actual action item that we press and work to be consistent with. And so I want to see in the next 10 years creative directors of all shades, all backgrounds, all genders, people that are making these huge multi-billion-dollar, experiences, look like people that never would have expected, and they can be themselves and be empowered with those opportunities. And so with my company, we're doing just that. We're creating roles and creating opportunities for anyone to be able to, go out there and really find unique ways that themed entertainment can be presented, and finding cool companies to partner with us to make that happen. So yeah, I'm really excited about it. Just finding really cool people, and then of course, our website, www.TUIWworkshop.com. We have cool things on there all the time, and we actually are looking for talent, continuously for the things that we're trying to accomplish. So yeah, just keeping tabs with us, and we also have some other subdivisions too. Jerry and the Upbeats.com is also on there. Figure Apparel, that's a clothing line that we have under our stuff that handles our merch for our characters and original pieces. And of course, Creative Quest Foundation. You can all find all those links on the TUIWorkshop.com website. But yeah, it's a bright future and it's exciting. And just stay locked, because this year is going to open up a lot of neat things. And just follow us on LinkedIn and beyond, and you'll see what we've been cooking.
Oh my gosh, y'all have given us so much. Like this, I really I know we have to cut because an hour and a half, but I don't want to. I literally just want to keep listening. Do you have any parting words of wisdom? I don't even know that you could, because you've given us so much wisdom already. Was there any parting words that you want to share?
Katrina, what do you want? Anything to say?
I know I keep repeating myself, but just, be you, be your authentic self, because nobody else is like you. Don't compare yourself to other people. Everybody else has their own journey. I mean, your story is your story, and you have the power to write it. And your story is different from everybody else's. So I know I used to compare myself to everybody, and I used to get stuck with that feeling all the time of oh, I'm not good enough, or, what we were talking about earlier, the imposter syndrome. You're not good enough. That's a lie. You are you, and nobody else is you. And own who you are, and that you have so much ahead of you once I'm sorry, now I'm getting choked up. But once you finally get to that point of acceptance of who you are, so many doors will open in front of you. And just always remember, you are you. Nobody else is you.
Well said.
We have a
You're making me
sympathetic
cry.
crier over here.
Yeah, if Kelly doesn't cry
I'm
once an
looking up.
episode, then
I'm
it's not an
not
episode.
actually. I'm looking up.
I think that's beautiful though, Katrina, and I think it's okay that you've said it throughout the episode, because some people need to hear that, and some people need that ingrained, and it's a really uplifting thing. So I think that's a really beautiful sentiment that you just said.
Absolutely. You gotta love her. She's amazing.
Awesome.
Yeah. She's yeah, and just quickly, I mean, it's just a choice to create cool things. And it's also a choice to empower people to create those cool things too.
Yes.
And so you have to understand that themed entertainment is for family. Think about the types of people that we're reaching, all the different faces that we want to be able to enjoy all the things that we create, all the parks and you want to get all the coasters and stuff. They all have stories and they all have backgrounds, right? They all have things that they want to connect with. And so it's up to us as storytellers to give them that chance, because every story for every culture is different. Have their opportunity for representation so they can hear, oh, there's somebody that gets me, that gets my background, that gets my struggles, and they can see it through the characters. They can see it through the attractions. They can see it through the shows. They can see it through the films and the television and the games, that you get it, and not only that, you accurately took time out to find out what does it take for me, for it to be like me, the kinkiness of my hair and the way my shoulders are, my arms and my eyes, to have that representation, it just takes an extra step. It's not a hindrance. It's something that actually brings so much benefit, and that's what we do. We always creating joy. So with that in mind, we have to also keep in mind the people that don't have a voice and not always have a loud voice. We're creating stuff for them too. So as a company, as an industry, we can do it together. And with TUIW, we're always trying to make that happen and finding cool people to work with us to make that happen as well.
And that's the clip. That's it. There. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, RJ and Katrina, for coming on our show and sharing all the wonderful things from the TUIW workshop and just the great advice that you have given our viewers. I think this episode is very valuable, and I hope our viewers get a lot out of it, which I know they will. But again, thank you so much for being here. For our viewers at home, again, sorry this isn't a live episode. Please do comment down below, what else you'd like to see. If you have questions for RJ and Katrina here, definitely visit the website, hit them up, check out all of their stuff, like and subscribe to TETV for more. We have lots of cool stuff coming up this next week as well. So yeah, definitely stay tuned, subscribe to our newsletter, all the good stuff. And we will see you next time. Thank you.
Yeah,
thanks everyone.